Hello and welcome to the Call of the Soul podcast. I'm Leslie Falkenberg, a founding contributor of the Call of the Soul Foundation. Our podcasts are intended to share insights and meaningful contributions from special guests in alignment with the vision, mission, and heart of the Call of the Soul Foundation. And simply put, that mission is to connect, serve, and facilitate transformation for businesses, families, and any way we can learn to be the best we can be. You can find out more about us at thecallofthesoul.org. Our host today is Dr. Ray Falkenberg, founder of the Call of the Soul Foundation. Our special guest is Dr. John Webb, a talented musician and author of the new book, Well, I'll Be a Blue-Nosed Gopher, Practicing Happiness Now. In fact, it was his own music playing during our intro, so thank you very much, John, for contributing that music. It was beautiful. A little background on John. He grew up in West Dundee, Illinois until age 11, when the family moved to Buena Park, California to start a concession at Knott's Berry Farm called Jungle Island. After helping out after school and on weekends, John made the decision to go into music as a career. As a teenager, he went from garage bands to being a full-time performing musician in Orange County, California. After an AA degree at Cypress College and a transfer to Cal State University, Fullerton, he went on the road for a year performing and then made the decision to go to the University of North Texas, renowned for their jazz program. Eventually, John earned a bachelor's and a master's of music at UNT, and later earned a Doctor of Arts at the University of Northern Colorado. John C. Webb, Dr. John C. Webb, was a professor of music for 31 years, including 7 years in administration. He taught saxophone, music education, and jazz courses at Mount San Antonio College, California State University, Fullerton, Chadron State College in Nebraska, University of Wisconsin-Whitewater, and the University of Texas at Tyler, quite a few schools. He's an active performer on saxophone, flute, piano, and vocals, and has performed with Chuck Berry, Freddie Cannon, the Penguins, and a number of jazz artists from the Maynard Ferguson Band, and many other prominent artists in his career. John currently plays in California in 6 groups, playing jazz, Latin jazz, rock, and R&B. He's also a full-time caregiver for his wife, Toni, but more on that later in the podcast. Besides academic papers, Dr. John Webb authored his own textbook, Cultural Music Perspectives, Native American, African American, and Latin American Music in the U.S. But today, we are here to talk about his latest release, Well, I'll Be a Blue-Nosed Gopher, Practicing Happiness Now. At this point, I will hand over the reins to our host, Dr. Ray Falkenberry, again, the founder of the Call the Soul Foundation. Ray, to you.
Thanks so much, Wes. Wow, John, just listening to that, I'm so impressed. There's so much experience. There's so much talent. There's so much wisdom in anybody who has traveled so much, taught so long, and done so much. So I'm honored and thrilled that you can be on the show with us today. So welcome.
It's really an honor to be here and with such a great group like Call the Soul.
Well, John, it's as you know, this is one of our inaugural podcasts, and so you're going to be our sacrificial lamb, and we'll always have the posterity of being the most famous first person we've gotten a chance to interview. So I don't know if that's a congratulations or not, but we're thrilled to have you. So, John, there's so much I want to talk about, and we have so many things to cover, but I'd love it if you would, to start our conversation, could you tell us a little bit about how you got started in the field of music and maybe how you gravitated to the very unique area of jazz?
Well, just like Call of the Soul, sometimes that Call of the Soul comes early, and one of that for me has always been music. And it started just as a baby in the crib. I used to start rocking and rolling in the crib and singing songs really loud, even at 3 in the morning. My parents loved it for about 5 minutes, but they couldn't stop. They couldn't shut me up, So I had music in me as an infant, and so they thought, well, maybe I'd like to be in band or something. And so when I got into grade school, I started listening to some records, and I found an Al Hirt record. And Al Hirt, of course, was a famous jazz trumpet player. He played Dixieland, famous for being a New Orleans person. And so I wanted to play trumpet. So my parents went out and they bought me a flute. So I was just underwhelmed because flute, I was in 4th grade. I'm 8 years old still. And I didn't want to sit with all the girls back then, They had fringe benefits later. But so I tried to get a note out of the flute. You start with the mouthpieces and everybody's huffing and puffing and the girls are getting sounds and they're starting to get the flutes together over a week or two. And little Johnny's going, trying to get I just didn't respond very well, and I was way behind. And so about the second week, the band director sent me a little note in a sealed envelope to hand to Mrs. Webb. So I gave it to my mom, getting ready to run out and play. And she said, John Christopher Webb. And I said, uh-oh, full name. I went back, and sure enough, it was a letter that said, Dear Mrs. Webb, please excuse Johnny from band, as this is not the correct extracurricular activity. He does not have an aptitude for music.
Oh, shit.
My mom got on the phone, and by the time she got done with him, he sent his daughter, who played flute, over to give me lessons. And so she got me going and getting the note out of the flute, and I got caught up. So thanks, Mom, because otherwise who knows where I would be. So moving on from that, I enjoyed music, loved being in band. I was had a great junior high and high school. Man, I have to have the same band director for both, Mr. Don Gunderson. He was a great band director and got me really interested in music. But I wasn't sure if I wanted to do that for a career until my second year in college. But I came home one day and I'd made up my mind. I wanted to be a music major. I told my parents. And there's this deathly silence. Oh, well, okay, but how will you make a living? Oh, I don't know. I'll just work really hard. But by the way, I just got a 4-night-a-week job at a nightclub. I'm age 19. And it's 4 nights a week and at the Whistling Oyster, and it starts next week.
Oh, my gosh.
So they were like, oh, my son, he's going down the primrose path to hell. So anyway, that was the beginning of my career of playing gigs and my start in music.
You know, what's interesting is what a humbling start to be essentially kicked out of your first music class. And but you know what was very cool is you had the perseverance. You stuck with it. And maybe that tutor that came over, the band teacher's daughter, might have been fairly cute. I don't know. You probably didn't notice at that age, but no, it wasn't cute. Well, you know, it's interesting because you said something that was awesome in that you mentioned that, you know, parents might be afraid to, you know, what, my son's going to be an actor, my son's going to be a musician, you're going to starve like a starving artist. By the way, though, I'm employed and I'm working 4 nights a week. And I know from previous conversations, and from even your bio, you've played for so many people and with so many people. So I'm really curious because there's an interesting transition here. So as you're playing all these different kinds of gigs, was there something that happened in the gigs that you were playing over time that said, you know, I love music, jazz is in my blood, but I'm really curious about seeing, is there another way for me to express music, which eventually led you into the collegiate world in academia? Was there an event that triggered that, or a series of events, or no?
Well, Dr. Ray, there were several actually. It's one started the very first week that I took that gig I was telling you about at the Whistling Oyster. It's no longer there. The Whistling Oyster in Huntington Harbor, California. It was a nice place, and of course, busy place, and they had their resident people that came there every night to party and drink and dance and everything like that. And we played jazz and top 40. But the first night I played, and I'm only 19. That first, of course. 2 drinks are there. So-and-so bought the band a drink. So-and-so bought the band a drink. 2 drinks there. Okay, And then the next night, there's 3 drinks. I ordered screwdriver to start off with. And then the third night, there's like 5 drinks there. And I'm going, this isn't going to work. I can't do this. So I went to the bar. I can't drink all these drinks. Well, that people get offended if you just say orange juice or Coke. So I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll put orange juice in your drink and put a little straw and make it look like
Screwdriver.
Yeah, screwdriver. And then I'll charge them for this, screwdriver. So the 4th night there were 7 drinks, 7 orange juices for me on the ledge. So I drank them all actually, and I don't know for a year. But the 4th night I had to give the female vocalist a ride home, getting on the freeway at 2 a.m, and somebody came from the far lane and cut in front of me to make an exit as I was accelerating. I had to jam on the brakes, spun around, went down an embankment, and stopped about 5 inches from a light pole. And I thought, I was able to get the car out and everything, but I thought, what if I had screwdrivers? So that was a wake-up call first right away.
Wow.
After that, I loved playing, but I got tired of the music to drink by. I got tired of some of the, there was great musicians to play with, but there was also a lot of alcoholics that I would play with, and a couple of coke freaks, and they even had a meltdown on a stage one time where the person just freaked out and the band had to get fired because, it really made an impact. So there's got to be more to music than just playing. There's nothing wrong with having a party here and there, but every night, party, drink. And I wanted the music to mean something. So the academic environment brought some credence to the whole thing. And plus I liked the learning environment. I didn't want to just didn't want an empty, banal kind of thing. So luckily I went back to school and got into academia. And I think that was one of the best things I could have done. It gave relevance to the music. And plus, when I later on became a professor, a teacher, I enjoyed helping others find their path, and that was much more rewarding. And I still got to play gigs, but I could be more selective about which ones that I played.
It's interesting, as I think we could do a whole nother show on just the adventures of a professional musician, working venues, working bars, working things. And, and I think that would be entertaining in its own right. I'm glad you got into, and I'm sure your students, John, glad you got into academia. So I guess the question I would ask is, as you think back on your 31 years in traditional academia as a professor and as an administrator, what is maybe the one thing that stands out that was most memorable for you in that time period?
Yeah, it wasn't a single concert. It wasn't a single class or a single person. It was just the times when I could make a difference in someone's life, whether it was teaching an ensemble, whether it was in a private lesson, a one-on-one, or in a classroom. If I felt that I reached somebody, which you can't reach them all. You try with some people, and I learned the hard way. Sometimes you cannot. You can't save them. For example, if they're going down a wrong path, you can try. But when you can make a difference, that pays for itself. It pays for all the committee meetings.
What's interesting is I would love to, again, I think that we could have so many conversations, John, in so many different areas of music, or another one is right here in the adventures we've had in academia. But what I loved what you said is such a pure message that it resonates with us. It's literally what we're designed to do with Call of the Soul, is to make a difference, to connect with people and make a difference. And sometimes you can't, but that's really that goal. And if you can even have that one little experience, or that one kid, or that one opportunity that does shift somebody's life, it's amazing. It's worth it in that way. So I'm real curious, because as we move into what you're now involved with, is this incredible book, and I want to start to move in that direction of happiness. And so again, coming from this incredibly rich background, how did your interest in happiness, in the field of happiness, get started?
Well, it started actually as a master's student at the University of North Texas. I took a class from Dr. Forrest Rollins, and he was a psychology teacher and education. And he taught a class called Learning and Motivation, and it met at 8 o'clock in the morning, which was just great. Great. So, but everybody said, oh, he's a great professor. So what he did, came in the first day, and he brought this huge box of books, loaded with books for all subjects, science, self-help, psychology, and everything. Sets it down, and they brought it in on a big cart. And he said, okay, everybody, just go grab a book. So we went, okay, well, which one? Well, just whichever one you want. So we all kind of tenderly went over there, because we weren't sure what he was after, and we took a book, and we went back and says, now I want you to take it home and read it. Okay. And what do we do then? Well, then he gave us a little blue book, the books that they give you in college for taking tests. Just write some of your thoughts down. Yeah. Well, how much do we have to write? Write whatever you want. But how long does it have to be? It can be as long or short as you need it to be. And when does it due? You turn it in when you're done. And then what? Go get another book. Okay. And then what? Do the same thing again. I read 13 books that semester. And I couldn't wait to get the next one, because he took the fear away from, about learning. And he said, if as long as we gave our best effort, this is grad school. He couldn't have done this with undergrads, I don't think. But he said, you're going to get an A. You just do your best effort. And we wrote comments, and after a while, I couldn't wait to write some thoughts about the book, and he would respond. And of course, his lectures and everything were great, but he took the fear out. And a lot of the books in that box were about happiness. And I got to start reading a lot of books involving that. And so that was the beginning, because I thought, wow, this is a different way of approach of teaching, and why didn't I get more of that? So, of course, I go into my career as a professor and academic, and going into administration. I learned that there's a lot of stress, of course, with students. We know that learning can be stressful, and we know that university life can be stressful. But I never realized until I became an administrator was, my goodness, the faculty and the administrators are just as stressed out or more so than the students were. Now, there's something wrong with that picture. Where's the love in the whole thing? And it was so like little kids in a sandbox sometimes, faculty quarreling, because I'm in charge of a music department and later on in charge of an entire division of arts, and I'm realizing there's just little kids sometimes, great minds, intelligent minds, but they're unhappy, they're miserable. And I thought, well, intelligence obviously doesn't have anything to do with happiness. Well, what does? Well, of course, I'm a musician, and I'm a jazz musician. Well, we're cool, right? Wrong. Go there. People talk about people. I used to compare jazz musicians to ladies in an 1890s sewing circle gossiping. We would top that group because, oh, did you hear so-and-so? And, oh, so-and-so thinks he's a hot player and blah, blah, blah. And I thought, man, there's got to be something. It's a universal problem. And that's where I thought it was time, to bring more of that into the world. I wish the universities had more emphasis on well-being, getting rest, being well-balanced instead of do this or else, and I got too much of that in my career, and it was hard to thrive in that environment sometimes.
Yeah. What's fascinating, again, I think we've had so many common experiences, especially in education. I'm still navigating the politics, the stressors, not only from students and the faculty. It's still there, John, even though, you've been gone for a little while. It hasn't changed too much. And one of the things, I don't know if I shared with you, my son, Wes, and I wrote a book on the relationship between the professors and the students. And what we found was the students were incredibly unhappy in their relationship with their faculty professors. And what was really interesting is it was not only quantitative numbers, but qualitative numbers. They were looking for so much more than just somebody to come out and spit out content or yap at them about a test or an essay or something. And that culminated with writing a book on, not only the book on bridging that gap between students that my son and I got to do, but then got to write a book on connecting, how do we connect better as teachers and such. And so one of the things I'd really be curious about, because I know we could talk about the challenges in education, but as we move forward in this book of happiness, how does it that you, this professor of jazz and a musician of the impeccable level, you're writing a psychology book that is, no, let me rephrase that, a field that is traditionally written by people with degrees in psychology, psychiatrists, psychology. And I find that incredibly fascinating because your book doesn't read like one from a psychologist or a psychiatrist. So how do you address that? How do you deal with the fact that you're writing this book in this field?
Well, of course, I've ever since the box of books from Dr. Rollins in North Texas, I've been reading, hundreds and hundreds of these books on happiness, related fields and so forth. And, they're great books. And I just felt like it was time to have a different perspective from someone else that is not a psychiatrist or a psychologist or a counselor and everything. So for me, I felt like I could bring an educational, a music perspective, different cultural perspectives too, from my teachings in Native American and African American music and everything like that. So what I felt like I needed to do was probably come at it from different angles. And I've realized to have life experiences. Sometimes they'll give a degree to someone, an honorary doctor, for example, if they have experience in the field. In music, sometimes they'll give an honorary doctorate to a musician who's just incredible, didn't go to school, but who could, would Leonard Bernstein need a doctorate? No, I don't think so. How about Elvis Presley? Did he need a music degree to have a successful career? So I felt like, I'm not going to worry about it. Here's what I have. I don't pretend to have all of the answers, but new perspectives are good to have. And so
Absolutely.
The other thing is that, it's about practicing too, because how does anybody get good at their field? They need to work on it. They have to spend a long time to become a professor. Dr. Ray, you spent many hours studying your craft and perfecting it and working it into academia. And a musician, for example, has to practice their craft. I have to practice a lot of hours so I don't bend or offend the ears of people around me. So it doesn't happen just by mistake. So why not practice while being the same way? Because we can't just leave it to chance, like have a lifeboat out in the Pacific Ocean floating around and waiting to connect with a buoy somewhere. And there's your happiness. How about controlling that lifeboat? And how about saying, hey, we're going to go to this island. And here we go. We may have a hard time. We might have a rough journey, but let's go ahead and work on our shortcomings. Well, the only warning label here is that if we do, sometimes, and this happened to some of the people that took my practicing happiness class, at first you thought you were happy, then you work on yourself a while, then you realize, oh, thanks a lot. I thought I was happy, but now I realize I have more work to do. So you can take a little dip at first.
That's straight out of see, you're becoming a psychologist and you didn't even know it, John. You literally described that process, which I think is incredible. Go ahead.
No, that was it. They got mad because they said, well, thanks a lot. Now I'm not happy. It's all your fault.
Well, I do have to admit, again, when you read a bunch of self-help books and attitude books and things like that, it tends to read from a certain flavor and yours doesn't. And I think that's why I found it as refreshing as I did. It just did not read like your typical kind of self-help attitude book, which was incredible. But this leads me to kind of another focal point of the book. This leads us to Tony and Tony's story. So if you would, can you briefly share with us what happened to Tony and how did that affect both of your lives?
Well, quite some time ago, I was almost done with the book, or so I thought. And then at that time, my wife, Tony, got in an accident. And I don't mind, this used to be such a taboo to mention, but now, we're coming with the fact that mental illness can be a real issue. And Tony had been a bipolar 1 for a long time. And bipolar 1 is the most severe case of bipolar. Now, most of the time she was wonderful, but she was prominent, possibly subject to episodes. So during our nearly 48 years together, she had 5 major episodes. And they're not, anybody that's been involved with that knows that it can be very difficult. And what happened was Tony needed hospitalization. You can be kind of delusional and sometimes, ostracize yourself from the family and everything like that. So it's a pretty rough experience. But and sometimes even with medication, stress can trip the medication and and override the problem and make it rough. So Tony had come out of a bipolar episode. She was getting better, but she was under a lot of medication. So she went walking and she got hit by a vehicle going 45 miles an hour as a pedestrian. And I wasn't with her, but I didn't know what had happened. And I got a call at 6 in the morning saying, you better get to the hospital. When they finally figured out who she was and, and everything like that, because she didn't carry any ID with her or anything. So anyway, got that call and she ran to the hospital and she had about a 5% chance of survival. And with this traumatic brain injury going on, they operated on her. They saved her life literally, but they said she has a traumatic brain injury and also broken bones and she broke her leg, broke her arm. It was ribs and everything. So she was in a coma for about a week and then started coming back. Gradually, she started recovering. They took the tubes out. She learned how to breathe. She learned how to eat, and gradually learned to talk a little bit. But she didn't know, who we were. And we realized her memory was only long term from way back when she was a kid, and short term only to about 45 seconds. So after 45 seconds, she would tend to forget and ask the same question again. So Tony was just so heroic in coming back and being amazing.
Gosh, that is such an amazing story in that way. And what's interesting is I believe she ties into this whole concept of the blue-nosed gopher. Can you kind of tie that into that?
Absolutely. Well, that's why might as well do the little plug here. Ta-da! Maybe backwards if you think. Anyway,
no, it's good. Perfect.
Blue-nosed gopher. There we go. I'm backwards. But the blue-nosed gopher came about when Tony was learning how to speak in rehab hospital. And she can walk now, by the way. I'll walk her. And she's got one arm that works, and she's amazing. But this blue-nosed gopher came in about the third month of her rehab, and her personality came back, she kicked in, and she started getting really cheerful and singing songs and everything. So I was wheeling her out for breakfast one morning, and she looked up and down the halls of the hospital, all the activity going around and people buzzing around, and she said, "Well, I'll be a blue-nosed gopher." And then she went, and of course we all laughed, we took her into breakfast and everything. And then we took her into the next room for her physical rehab. "Oh, well, I'll be a blue-nosed gopher," and so she kept saying that for a long time, day after day. Where's she getting that from? I asked her, "Somebody teach you that?" No. Well, I looked up online, and sure enough, from the Mickey Mouse Club in the 1956 and 57, when she was a little girl, she watched that show. And in that show was these dude cowboys called Spin and Marty. It was a segment on Disney. And when she would watch that, all these kids are getting together trying to learn how to be cowboys and everything like that. There was a guy named Ollie the horse trainer. And at the beginning of the first episode, he looked down at the kids and shake his head and go, "Oh, I'll be a blue-nosed gopher." That stuck in her head. But blue-nosed gopher, though, is more than just a saying, because the way Tony does it is that there's, in that laugh, it's like, well, here we are in the here and now. I'm not worried about the past because she doesn't remember the past. And by the way, there's no marital baggage anymore. When you lose your past, it's not all bad. You might think, "Oh my goodness," you go, "Oh," but you know what? The past is all what it's cracked up to be. And you might think, "Well, what about all those good memories too?" But even the good memories can be sad, especially if they involve people that are no longer with us. So she's always in the now. Not, she lives right in the now, and that's where the power is anyway. So by being a blue-nosed gopher, you're kind of being in the now. And so, but the other thing is that she's this amazing, cheerful being all the time. You can't be in a bad mood around her. I've tried. I try to be in a bad mood once in a while, just to, and she won't let me. She's just amazing, pure, and and also she keeps things simple in my book. And so, I spared the academic jargon. I got rid of it best I could, and she keeps things simple and real for me.
What's beautiful about this, and I know it's a painful story in a lot of ways because just the mental illness can be a difficulty in itself, but then you're adding an accident, traumatic brain injury, high probability of death that can change people in a lot of ways. But for you, John, what's fascinating about it is it's helped transform you. You've taken this event, this difficult trauma, and you've turned it into something positive. And so you've created this amazing book about that. And I know that's different than academic writing. So I think for many people, they would appreciate the fact that it's not coming in heavy-handed with psychobabble, and it's just really this incredible logical thing. But as we go forward in the 10 minutes or so we have left, what are you looking for, John? What's something that you could maybe talk a little bit about the book and your hopes for it? What are you looking for in that? And maybe share a little bit about the book.
Well, the real simple thing is that I just wanted to help people feel better about themselves. And it may take some soul searching to do it. So the book is really for somebody who is willing to at least work on themselves. It's comprehensive. It's not a short book. There's a lot of different approaches to happiness. But with the help with that, I found a great illustrator, Sarah Bossinger, who was a student at University of Texas at Tyler, and is now she's applying for students too, and a band director in the Houston area. But she can do these cartoons, and so we worked together for a couple of years to get over 300 of these cartoons in there. And so they help make the book dance. And I'm a visual person, and if I see endless, text on the page, sometimes I go, oh no. But then I see a cartoon or something, I want to find out what that cartoon has to do with the book. So she's really helped make the book dance. And there's 7 sections of the book. One is the first one, Who the Heck Am I? It's basically about self-introspection, looking at yourself, and, discovering yourself a little more. The second one is transforming thoughts into action, so they become action and not just staying in the thought realm. There's another one about putting time on your side. The time management aspect, though, is not like getting organized and everything like that. It's more about doing what's important, even if you don't do anything else. There's a section on endless energy, trying to get more energy. How do we do that? A lot of it has to do with that soul purpose. If you're following the call of your soul, you're going to have more energy. If you don't, then you have to figure out why. There's a lot of activities. My favorite chapter might be the ego check, because that's where I have to look at too. The ego is not about confidence, but it's about being tricked into not even realizing you're self-centered when you are. So there's all kinds of ways ego can be a trickster and make you think you're not egotistical when you really are. The last part of the book actually has to do with overcoming negativity, because how can you be happy when you're going through a really adverse, if you lose your job? Are you happy now? What if you lost a loved one? Are you happy now? No, it's not about being happy. It's about overcoming and dealing and not sinking under the ocean when those things happen. The last section is just about that happiness matters. It makes a difference for everybody, one at a time, one person at a time. It can really kind of create a paradigm shift that hopefully would be equivalent to the next, the invention of the internet, I suppose. The last thing is there's 43 happiness steps, and they're just activities and exercises where you can look at yourself, and some of them are going to work for some people, and some will, help others. But between those, if one of those steps, you're going to find something that's going to help you, look at yourself a little bit more closely.
Yeah, there is some beautiful exercises that a psychologist would envy, and I know would utilize. They were some really good steps and good ideas. I'm just curious, John, is by chance, I don't know if she's available, but is our blue-nosed gopher nearby? Is she nearby? Could she say hello for a moment?
She is standing by. She's walking over here.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay. Go ahead. All right, and now there.
Hi, Tony.
Hi.
Oh, it's so good to see you. You are a blue-nosed gopher.
Yeah, Tony was, she'd been a bookkeeper, paralegal, and then she went on to be an artist, and she specialized in pottery. Now she does watercolors. You can see she's doing it right there.
Oh.
She did massage therapy and also Native American spirituality with giving teaching to children and organizing powwows and everything like that. And so this is the lady that I'm blessed to have with me every day.
Oh, she's an angel. Oh, Tony, so what do you enjoy doing most?
Well, I like to do watercolors a lot, and I like to watch television, and I like to eat good food and go on who rides in the car and see my relatives.
Yeah.
You know,
Do you
that's,
like listening to John's music?
oh yeah, I love listening to his music.
Oh my gosh, that is awesome. Oh, it is so good to see you. You just look lovely, dear one.
Oh, thank you.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm just curious, John, what are you looking to do? What's your upcoming projects? What's in the future for you guys?
Well, right now on the website, I'm going to try to get the blogs out a little more often, more like once a month, but they're going to go to once a week. And I'd like to make some smaller publications out of the chapters and various sections of the book, because each one of them warrant a lot more study and looking into. But I didn't want my book to be, 5,000 pages, just long enough as it is. So I also hope to develop a course, and maybe through the Call of the Soul. So
Yeah.
you guys are looking at that, and I'd be really excited to, conduct a class like that, an online class, of course. And so that's the next three things, I suppose.
Yeah, I don't think your teaching is done, John. And one of the things that we've had a chance to chat with John about and looking at his book and being amazed by it is it would be an amazing course. So we're actually building our first course at Call of the Soul and adding some gamification elements. And I think that would be something that would take an already incredible book and to be able to maybe gamify that in some kind of a course would be so much fun. And I think it would be such a wonderful thing for you in that way. So I'm hoping that that's something you do get to do. John, where can people not only learn more about you and maybe your work and how Tony's doing, but where can they pick up a copy of your book? I think we're running banners. And is that some place that we can find out more about you?
Yeah, it's actually right there on the banner. Yeah, and that's the website there, drjohncwebb.com, and on there are the Amazon links. All you have to do is just go there, and there's an Amazon link where you can purchase the book, and it's available in paperback, of course, like the one I showed you, but also it's available in Kindle. And because there's so many images in there, the paperback has to be in grayscale, but the Kindle is in color, and so the images really leap out at you in that. So there's music on there, and also the blogs and so forth, and so that's the place to go.
What's interesting is I know a lot of people tend to get physical books, but I got to see the book as a PDF, and I am advocating, folks, for you to get it as a PDF because the images in color were beautiful. The cartoons were, they just jumped off the page in that way. And then they may on paperback, black and white, but I just think the color was amazing.
Also, it's really the Kindle it's an EPUB form, like when you go. So it's electronic, but so it's really not a PDF, but you got the special PDF.
Fair enough. John, it has been so amazing getting a chance to chat with you and having you on this show and getting a chance to see that lovely lady next to you that has been this inspiration of an incredible book. Is there anything else you'd like to share or tell our audience that in your journey and where you've been and where you're going?
If you're interested in getting a weekly email from me, then you can go to the contact section on my website and sign up, and you'll get a weekly either information about a blog or the next thing that's happening or thought for the day, or who knows, maybe prizes later on. I mean, so I can keep in contact with the community of people like yourself and like this wonderful group. And so if you're interested, just go to the website, sign up under contacts. And last thing was I would love to say that what an honor it's been to be part of this group, because it's kind of been an answer to a prayer for me in a way, like finding a community of like-minded people that want to better the planet, and what better way to start. And I appreciate you having me.
Well, John, it has been such an honor having you, and you really are, both you and Tony are what we are aiming for at Call of the Soul, in that looking to connect with people with a wonderful heart, a wonderful spirit, a great message, and looking to change the world, looking to evolve the world however way we can. Tony with her beautiful smile and her energy, John with your music and your passion for helping students and people in general. And hopefully this book is going to be a vehicle that the world can benefit from. So I'm honored, and it's been a thrill having both of you on there. And I'd love to have you on again so we can maybe talk a little bit more, some fun of maybe music, a little bit more of education, but taking a peek that way. But again, I am grateful for everything, folks, and looking forward to hearing what's coming next for you guys. So thanks everyone for joining in with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, John and Tony, for coming onto the podcast. It's great to hear the conversation. So thank you very much. Again, you can find out more about Dr. John Webb at www.drjohncwebb.com. Go over and show him some love. You can also pick up your own copy of The Blue-Nosed Gopher. Our next podcast is on Tuesday, October 26th at 7:30 p.m. Central, 5:30 Pacific. With Bob Berg, we will discuss the Go Giver Way based on the best-selling Go Giver book series, which I'm very excited for as well. All podcasts will be viewable on the Call to Soul YouTube channel. Additionally, at the bottom of our website pages, you'll find a special offer. Subscribe to the COTS community that you resonate with, and the first 100 people will receive the full ebook for the community you select. You'll also receive our monthly newsletters and information for upcoming events. Thank you again for listening to the Call of the Soul podcast. Once more, you can find us at thecallofthesoul.org. Thank you so much, everybody.